Hello everybody, welcome back to how to build the Tomcat. Last video, if it'll ever finish processing on YouTube, will be up about the Frekote. So that was the first step. And the second step, in that video, if you haven't watched it, I just cleaned the molds and did a bunch of rambling on about cleaning the molds, and then also put the mold sealer down. Everything you see on this table now has 2 coats of mold sealer on it. They've been drying for about 15 minutes to an hour, depending on the part. And then over on that table, all of those parts have also had their second coat of mold sealer put on. So basically what you're looking at is a full set of molds to do a fuselage and a rudder. Between cleaning them with the Dawn soap and out in the yard and everything, and then coming in here and doing the wipe down with mold cleaner from Frekote, and then the 2 coats of mold sealer, has taken roughly about 3.5–4 hours. And now we're ready to do our last stage of the mold release, which is Frekote 770NC. They make a lot of different kinds of this stuff. This is just the one that I've been using. I think this one's specific to epoxy molds. And if you notice on the can, it's got when I purchased it and then when I opened it. So I purchased it a little over a year ago and I opened it just 6 months ago. So the stuff does have a shelf life of about a year once you open it. A lot of guys try not to keep it much longer than a year after they buy it. But again, since the stuff was completely sealed and all in its container, it should be fine. And it's been proven to work fine for everything else. So here we go. Tech sheet for this stuff says to wipe a coat on just like you did with the sealer, and then wipe it off once the stuff starts evaporating on it. One thing I've noticed, and I've gotten suggestions on or read from other people that use this stuff exclusively, is don't let it start to evaporate, because then you have to buff out the streaks that it leaves, and this stuff's extremely hard to buff. So you basically want to start working on a small spot, wipe it on, and wipe it right back off. Don't let it start evaporating or anything. So you need 2 rags just like the other stuff. Wipe on, wipe right back off. And you do that, then you let each layer or coat dry for 5 to 10 minutes. And you do that. You do 3 coats on new molds, and then you let it sit for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then you're ready to lay up a part or prime it or whatever, or you can just let it sit. So I mean, you can see 3 coats, 10 minutes in between coats, and the final 10 minutes. It only takes, we'll say, 45 minutes for something this big, because this thing only takes about 10 minutes to completely fill it up, so or completely cover it with a release. So 40 minutes of that part's ready to go. Unlike wax, it probably takes you 40 minutes to do 1 coat. And if you do 3 layers or 3 things of wax in, and then you have to PVA it on top of it, I mean, you're talking about a whole day to do a mold this size, to have the entire fuselage ready to go. This thing, you can literally wax it before breakfast, come back after breakfast and do your layups, and probably be back in the house before dinner time. So pop this can open and I'll start getting to work. Again, this stuff is just like everything else. I'll try and keep this video a little shorter. The last one took us about a little less than half an hour. But so get your rag nice and saturated with it. Probably can't see it from there. And again, just wipe it right on. Nice thing about these gear door molds is they're nice and small, so you can just wipe the whole thing off. And then take your other rag and wipe it right back off. And again, I've got all these molds out here on the table. That way I can go from one mold to the next mold to the next mold to the next mold. And then by the time I get to the first one I started with, gets ready for its next layer, the releaser or sealer or whatever you have to be working with. And this entire table of molds will probably only take, probably 10 minutes to do. From the first layer to that mold all the way around to the next one. Keep your rag nice and saturated with the stuff so you get a nice wet coat of it. You don't want it to look kind of dry or else you'll just shortchange yourself. Again, I hope to be able to lay up that second rudder and then the gear doors and the speed brake parts this evening. Just depends on how late I want to stay up and miss out on sleep before having to go to work tomorrow. Fairing grooves are kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. Kind of wish I molded those into this and just made them separate. But too late now. You want to make sure this stuff gets in the corners really good. You don't want to miss any spots. And as your rag gets soaks this stuff up, the further along you get, the less you have to recharge it. This is the step that takes the longest. You just gotta do it 3 times. The directions say 2 to 3, but 4 is better in my opinion when it comes to molds. It would really suck to get this far along and then your mold will stick to you apart and ruin it. interested in getting some Robocell foam and what the cost of shipping from Germany to here, let me know. I'm gonna hopefully place an order in the next couple of weeks. That way I can get this the fuselage and those wings moving along. In order to have an airframe all completely laminated up and everything by the end of the summer, or at least all the materials to do that. That way come wintertime when things are slow, I got a lot of stuff to work with. And when shipping one sheet that's about 2 foot by 4 foot, it's $60. But shipping 30 sheets, all the same size, is $60. It makes a lot more sense than buying in bulk. Yet another reason why I've been kind of slacking with this is coming up with the money for this stuff. Buying it stateside isn't really an option because the few people who do carry it want insane prices for it. I mean, you're talking about $25 for a sheet of this stuff from Germany, and then over here in the States they're asking $100 for that same sheet. I'll keep the video rolling while I do this table, and then I'll stop it up and let you guys have a little break. I'll get this thing loaded up on YouTube. Y'all can watch, and then when I get ready to come back out and start priming the molds and everything. Once I get them primed off. Start the video camera back up, and we'll lay up a router and some gear doors hopefully. Not gonna bore you guys with an hour or two of mold release, wiping on and wiping off. Plus, I don't have that much stuff to talk about. Not right now. This stuff is just like the Karate Kid movie. Wipe on, wipe off. Wipe on, wipe off. I don't have some teenagers to do this for me. Now the big boy. And the piece you just saw me put a release on this nose section, that'll actually be attached to this big center trough that I call it when I mold this part, so it'll all be molded as one instead of two separate pieces. But this fuselage is center trough, and then the two outside edges that hold the outer halves of the engine nacelles, or whatever you want to call them, those will be molded separately. Either they'll be joined with some carbon toe and some fiberglass tape to seam them together. It's just doing this whole thing and those two outer portions together is just way too big for one person. And putting it all in a vacuum bag would just be a nightmare, and not having any leaks with all the seams on it. So I'll buy some vacuum tubes then I'll just stick all this stuff in a tube and be good to go. Or at least that's the plan. Sometimes not everything goes as planned. Again, if there's somebody out there who wants one of these things and you're willing to put a little money towards the project in exchange for an extremely discounted price, send me a message or something. I'll give you my phone number and we can have a little chit chat or discussion or whatever you want to call it about getting one of these things. Somebody at this point to help get a prototype or two going would be helpful, because I've pretty much exhausted my hobby fund on just the molds for this thing. Definitely underestimated the cost a little bit. Cut you a deal that you can't refuse. Well, you could, but it'll be hard. Let me just put it that way. Spin this bad boy around to the other side. It's a lot lighter with just one section of it too. This thing all put together probably at least 300 pounds. It's heavy. Alright, that's the first coat of Frekote on this table. If anybody has any questions, feel free to speak up and I'll answer them the best I can. Again, once I get all these things prepped, you gotta do it 2 more times. So 3 coats total, 10 minutes of rest in between. To get all of those coats on there, I will fire up the video camera again and we'll start doing some painting and priming on some parts and lay a rudder and some other stuff up. So we'll see you guys in the shop here in a bit.